are watching, just let me know how the sound is going. And Amy's going to be taking notes as well. So hopefully you'll get all the great goodness that we're going to do. So my name is Leslie Hassel. I am the host of the Double Your Business Show in 90 Days. And today we are talking about how to conquer that shiny object syndrome to be able to win in your business. So entrepreneurs kind of jokingly all say that they have ADHD, which you may have seen that in our little tease for today's show. What I would love to have you help us with is just share the show with your people that you're connected with, and you can do that by clicking over there at the share last 30 seconds little button, and it will let you share on Twitter, Facebook, and other things. But this was the Blab Show. We are here every Monday at 1:30 Central, oftentimes with guests, sometimes solo, sometimes we have great fun and a lot of laughter. And that's one thing I remember about Sarah, who's with us today, is I think Sarah and I were roommates in a room maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and we just had a hell of a time. So I'm excited to have Sarah with us. And I know you can't see her beautiful face, but she is a lovely and beautiful woman. But let me tell you a little bit about her. And it's Dr. Sarah Reiff-Hekking, and she's the founder of True Focus Coaching. And what you'll find is that we're going to be talking really about presence and focus here, some of those success truths that really make it possible to have success in your business. But Sarah has over 20 years experience with really helping people create lives that they crave. She's passionate about helping smart people. Well, that's good, because we don't have anything but smart people here that are having a hard time managing time just with everything that you've got to do. And we're talking about really in the entrepreneur sphere. So she's going to help us talk about that and help you find out and figure out a way that you can make this work for you. So we're going to share lots of goodness with us today, but I know you're going to want to probably take it a little deeper and get to know a little more about Sarah as well. So we'll give you some ways to do that. But Sarah, Dr. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to have you on the show. Let me see. This is going to be the fun. So Sarah, can you hear me? Okay, so I'm having trouble with the audio now through Skype that we were going to Band-Aid our approach into here. Just checking, Sarah, if you're there. This is craziness. So the conversation was working just fine. She can hear me. I can't hear her. And that's just the way of things again. So let's see. I know we've actually had to do an interview through the chat box before, guys, and I don't really want to go through that again because I know you guys miss out on the impact there. I am out of ideas. Amy, any ideas?
Do you want me to try to call her on Skype and see if her audio?
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. So Sarah, I'm gonna hang up with you, Sarah, and then Amy's gonna give you a call. So we'll see if that works there. Thanks so much, guys, for chiming in with us. I do want to go over you guys with what we're going to talk today, and that'll give just Sarah a minute to come in. But we are going to talk about why so many entrepreneurs have ADHD and then what that shows up like in your business. So that can show up as in the shiny object syndrome, which I think is most people's favorite way of talking about this, but also it shows up in the squirrel syndrome. So if any of you have kids and you've seen Up, the little dog that's like, what, squirrel? And that's the way a lot of entrepreneurs can be in your business, and it can be really easy to do that. So we're gonna talk about why it's such a more natural trait for entrepreneurs to get into this kind of trap of too many things to do and too much things to attack their attention. We're going to talk about what it costs you in your business, because I think it feels so slight some days that if we don't talk about what it's actually costing you in your business, you don't always give it necessarily the attention that it needs. We are going to talk about habits, and Dr. Sarah Reiff-Hekking has some ways to share with that are a little unique. And I love that because my approach to time is a little unique as well. So I think when we're thinking out of the box, that's where we find genius. And then she's going to talk to us about the process that she takes her clients through. So I'm going to check in with Amy See if we're having any luck. So I think that was a no.
Not yet, unfortunately.
Can you hear me?
Hold on for a minute. Yeah, I can hear you.
Which way is she coming in, though? Is she coming in through Skype because there's an echo on it? Or
Sarah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear Leslie?
Okay.
Can you hear her?
I can hear her. There's just a little echo that happens with it.
Right.
A little high pitch.
I'm gonna mute my Skype and let's see how I'm coming in.
Yeah, she moved to Skype. We can't hear her at all.
Yeah, she's only coming in through Skype. So, can she hear me through Skype?
I can hear you.
Okay, then mute Blab.
Okay, I'm gonna mute my
I have my volume up to high. Okay, let's see if that works.
Sarah, can you say something again?
All right, major audio issues.
Can you hear me, Amy?
I can hear you.
Now.
Okay,
Okay.
so that is coming through Skype.
Yeah, it's not going to work just because of the audio feedback. She has 2 windows open. That might be. Can you just make sure how many windows you have open, Sarah? Or what we might just have to do is, it's gone now. Go ahead and say something.
I think it was gone because I muted her.
Ah.
Sarah, can you say something?
Yeah.
That's better.
Okay, when I mute myself.
Yeah. All right. I don't know that it's going to work because the feedback is so terrible on this side that it's painfully high pitched. I cannot believe that this is not allowing her to come in. All right. So I've got, I don't think we'll have to, that's going to work just because it's providing so much back feed on it. I know that earphones may work. I mean, that's Morella's suggestion. If Sarah, if you've got some headset earphones that would work and help us.
I think she's muted herself as well.
Okay. All right, then here's the game that we can play. Sarah, if you want to. Yeah, her mic is picking up her voice twice in some ways. Go ahead and try some headphones, and then you're in our room, so you're definitely able to go onto the chat. And then, guys, what I'm going to ask for you, because really what the purpose and the glory of Blab is that we can all kind of talk together. It's one reason why I like this medium over just me recording and kind of being a talking head to some things. But let's go ahead and let's dive into the entrepreneurship, ADHD, our first bullet point that we have here. And that is going to be about why do we have ADHD? I'm curious to see if anybody out there has some ideas about why we have it. I know I have my own ideas, but I would love to see some for you. And then maybe Dr. Sarah can chime in as well as we're waiting for her to get her headsets and things going. So William's saying you have an idea. Go ahead and share. William, why don't you do this? Hop online real quick. Go ahead and take the open seat. And then we'll see if we can do this. I got to tell you, Blab's the wild, wild west. Every week it's something. You have to have a lot of resilience to hang out in this space. So,
and patience.
And patience, yes.
Yes.
We're going to have a lot of editing on the audio. So, but we're looking at, let's see. I've got a couple of things there. So, she's asking, Leslie waiting right now. How very interesting. So we can definitely have Dr. Sarah come back on. Let me bring on William. He might help us out here. Howdy.
Hello, excuse my camera and stuff. I just had to turn my computer on real quick. Hey, in reference to the shiny object syndrome or ADHD, I think it's part of our survival mechanisms, because in the past, if we weren't able to focus on more things at once, when we heard whatever went bumped in the night, those who weren't aware or weren't able to pick up on that, they weren't left around to pass on their DNA. And those who were, I think that's something that's just hardwired into us. But when you get into an entrepreneurial state, it's somewhat artificial in comparison to our biological imperative. So you're going to have to, in my opinion, recognize that you have that trait, and it was necessarily, possibly there for a reason. But once you look at it and recognize you have it, start to use less of your, hindbrain and think more logically about it and control it instead of letting it control you.
I love that share. I have never thought about it in that way. I think for a lot of us, we were also brought up in a time, especially the 80s, when it was just, there was this concept of do it all, do it all, do it all, do more, get more.
Yeah.
And multitasking really became part of the DNA, I think, in that age. And I think it's now that we start to see more people going, multitasking is a myth. It can't exist. And, studies and things that people are sharing with us on that. What do you think about that concept that multitasking is actually a myth?
Well, I think we could multitask. However, the quality may be reduced when you try to focus on more than one thing at a time. I think it's possible, but I think the quality may be reduced. Now, like for instance, I'm gonna hop off here in a minute and go pick my son up from school. But if I was washing the dishes, I would have my iPhone in and I'd be listening to you guys. So I'm listening to you. I'm washing the dishes. I'm probably getting ready to get dinner ready for later on. So I'm doing all these things at once, but the quality of it, I probably could concentrate a lot better if I sat down. And even when I sit down, I probably will want to have a piece of paper and a pen to take down pertinent notes that you give out during this presentation. So I don't think it's a myth. However, I do believe that the quality may change. But you can, in my opinion, you can get better quality if you dedicate a certain amount of time to one particular task. And if you drill down, even during that task, you're doing more than one thing.
Well, you're right. You're right. A lot of I think people's ability to multitask also goes with how quickly your brain processes and how your brain processes information in general, which has a lot to do that. So thanks for coming on, William. Really appreciate. Go pick up the kids. That's what I do right after this show anyway. So I'm right behind you.
All right.
Carpool lane. Amy's like me too.
Take care. I'll be back to watch you guys.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, that's an interesting concept, an interesting way to look at it. I know both Sarah and I talk about there's some things that lead us to getting into situations with ADHD. And, I know we're going to have Sarah back on. We're not able to get her just really plugged in and able to chat with us. But there are a lot of things that do this when it comes to being an entrepreneur. I think one of these things is a lack of structure or a lack of focus in the business and in your day. So there's a concept that I teach is about time elasticity, that time will stretch or a task will stretch to meet the time. So you have to keep some things in kind of constraint there and understand that if you have a lot of time but just a little task, it's actually harder for you to pay attention to them than if you shrunk the time and had to be really focused on them because you've given yourself like an artificial deadline or something like that. So Amy, I hear a little bit of an echo. I don't know if that's coming from your side.
Well, I think it may be. I'm trying to get Dr. Sarah on and she can hear you.
That's so interesting because I see her.
For a minute, I could hear her. Sarah, can you say something?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you hear her, Leslie?
Yeah, if she'll speak a little louder, we might be able to do that. Sarah, do you want to chime in?
I would love to. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, if you speak loudly, I think we'll be good.
Okay. I'm also, when you take the next question, I'll see if I can get in on my phone.
And
So-
our chat box does sound great, so go for it.
Okay, so in terms of the multitasking piece, sorry, now it's my problem, ladies. Guess what? It came in on the phone. We'll try that later.
Oh, I hear
Okay.
you really good right now.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so glad to be here in radio mode. In terms of the multitasking piece, you know, caller was right. It really representativeness. And we know that you're really not multitasking. What you're doing is switching very quickly, right?
Right.
Whenever you switch activities, you lose some efficiency because you have to reorient yourself to what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you can get into one task and stay there, the better. With keeping in mind your own ability to maintain your attention in a particular chunk. So some of us have chunks that are like 1 minute, 25 minutes. Other of us have chunks that are like an hour or 90 minutes. So you want to get a sense about what's the optimal chunk for your brain and try and stick with that.
Well, and the other point, Sarah, here, because I completely agree with that, you also need to keep it in line with the task, right?
Yeah.
I know if I'm going to write, an hour is not enough, because about minute 45 is when I really got the juices going, and I've got to sit down and go all the way through. Like you said, if I switch a task, it's like I have to do those 45 minutes all over again.
Exactly. So you want to do as much as you can match the chunks that you set aside with the type of tasks that you need to get done, and also with your energy level. So writing is a really good one. People tend to have their best energy for writing or other creative types of activities either first thing in the morning or later in the day, right? So you want to match up your best time for writing as much as you can with the time you choose to sit down and do it. Make sense?
Yep, makes sense to me. I know I operate in that space, so I guess that's why it makes sense. But I know it's for a lot of business owners, it's not exactly the way they go, because they operate in so much more of a reactive setting versus a proactive setting.
Yes. Yes. And that's why one of the things that's super important to think about is, what is that plan for your day or your week, so you know the most important stuff's going to get done? And when are you going to shut down the other inputs in your day so that you really can focus? So that you're not creating what looks like ADHD, but is your environment pulling your attention?
Right.
Instead of really a diagnosable condition that some people have. Does that make sense?
No, it makes complete sense, because I know even in just some of my research and things, when you look at the time management, you know, distractions such as your notifications, your bings, your props, your vibrations, all of that nice fun stuff, they cost you more time than you really realize. And on average, they could cost a normal person 2 hours a day. The minutes just add up, don't they, at the end of the day?
Yes, they absolutely do. And it is it's stolen minutes in that you're distracted from what you're doing, but it's also a double cost because you have to reorient yourself to what you want to get back to, whatever you got pulled away from.
And that the ability to reorient yourself back to the task, I mean, that can cost you anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes easily, can it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's no wonder people don't get a lot done during the day.
Yeah. Yeah. So one really simple way to increase your focus is to turn off your alerts on your devices.
I'm laughing because that's what I do all the time, but I'm laughing because my phone has a really bad habit of turning them back on. I think some of these apps are actually programmed to turn the notifications back on, even if you turn them off.
Yeah, because the software marketers are better at figuring out how to get our attention. We are at understanding what pulls our own attention.
Yep. So
their investment is that we're on their social media so that we spend money with them. They don't really care how productive we are.
no, I mean, they make money. Oftentimes the apps are for free, and it's your integration into the app that is where they make money. So of course they want you to be there. So even if you've got apps that will turn themselves off or turn themselves back on like I do, what's the really simple thing you can do with your phone?
Turn it off.
Turn it off. The whole
You can turn it off or turn it upside down. I think I'm too impatient to wait for it to come back on, but I just turn mine upside down all the time.
Yeah, or leave it in the other room, right? If you want to turn it off, leave it someplace where you're not going to hear the alarms, the alerts, turn off the volume, turn it all the way off so the vibrate, you're not even going to hear it, and park it somewhere where you're not going to see it. Put it in a drawer.
What are some of the excuses you hear people give you when you tell them to do that?
Oh, I need to be available for people.
Yeah.
Right? And here's the deal. Unless you're a doctor, and even doctors often don't need to be available all the time, what you're doing is probably not life and death. So you want to ask yourself, how do I best serve people? And how can I set up my day so that they're clear about when I'm available for them and when I'm not available for them? Because it's going to make a huge difference for you and for them.
Amy, I know you did this because obviously I text and email back and forth with Amy all day long. So I get her autoresponder on her email, that you implemented this, a couple months ago? It's fairly new for you.
I did implement it a couple months ago upon the advice of a really wonderful coach that we have on audio right now.
Talk to me about that. What's been the feedback, or because I think that's what everyone's afraid of. If they put these kind of rules in place, that they're going to get lashback or negative feedback. But tell me, what have you found happen for you?
It's really been interesting. The first weekend that I put it into place, I got an email from a client congratulating me and telling me that she loved it. I've gotten, because I periodically update it with upcoming days that I'll be out of the office, and I'll have clients email me and say, hey, that's great. I see that you're out of the office. Or on one occasion, I put the wrong date in that I was going to be out of the office, and a client said to me, so I see you're going to be I know you're going to be out of the office tomorrow. And I was like, no. Well, that's what's in your autoresponder. I was like, oh. And so it's been great. And the other thing I have found actually is that, can you hear that noise?
What is that? I don't know.
That's really strange.
Okay, there you go. Sounds like
a washing machine. Yes. Well,
you don't know what it is,
but mine's not running. Can you hear me okay though?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Hopefully it'll go away in a minute. The other thing is that I have a link for, if you want to have a meeting with me or you need to have a meeting with me in my autoresponder. And I've had new clients use that link to set up, time to talk. And I've had clients just go ahead and use the link. So the autoresponder for me has been great.
Okay, so that's just one great tip that Sarah.
I can't hear you, Leslie.
Can anyone hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, I was saying that's just one great tip that Sarah you've given, and I wanted to make sure people saw how easy it is to kind of put into place, and how scary though it can be at the same time. So let's do this. Let's give some shout outs. So I just have to say thanks to William for popping on and helping that. Amy, Amy might go ahead and refresh your thing. And then William's asking if you use Calendly. I actually use Time Trade. I'm not sure if that's what Amy uses. Sarah, what do you recommend? Our audio connection was coming through Amy. This is a lot of fun. But there are lots of scheduling strategies out there. Amy's refreshing here. Let me let her back in. Time Trade is one. Calendly is one. Meet Me, I believe, is another one. Schedule Once, Morella is sharing with us there. Schedule Once is another one. And then Amy, I was getting Sarah's audio through you, so I want to make sure that's still working too.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, let's just real quick, I'd love to know, when you see your business owners having such a hard time with focusing and presence, what are the other ways that it shows up in their business?
It shows up in all ways. So one of the things that happens when we don't really get clear about how we're going to use our time, which is, by the way, our only non-renewable resource.
Hallelujah.
The land. Time is our only non-renewable resource, right?
Right.
So that means when you are spending your time in ways that aren't meaningful to you or not connected to the bottom line of your business, then you're losing money, right? So the thing that I think is super, super important for people to think about is really, how are you spending your time? And to track it during a few days in a week and get a sense about how much of that time are you doing things that only you as a business owner can do.
Well, I think that's a really important part, because whatever you don't track, you're making a very positive assumption on a negative situation, if that makes sense, meaning we always think we're doing better than we actually are. And one of the best ways to do that is to do some tracking and really get a sense of how you're doing and be real with it. I love that you shared, it's about that time is our own only non-renewable resource, which is very, very true. And at the end of the day, if you're the one working till 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock because you're not effectively using your day, you're cheating yourself and you're cheating your family. And the reality is you only have you to blame. But there's so many things you can do about it. So Sarah, let's talk about some of those things that you can do about it. You've got a kind of 5 steps that help just kind of push your way through this and start to bring this kind of a strategy or framework into your business so that you actually can get more done, but also get off of work, go enjoy the rest of your life. Talk about those for a little bit.
I'd be happy to. So these are my 5 steps to bust procrastination or overwhelm. And the piece I want you to pay attention to here is that we all have some emotional piece related to how we manage our time. And for some people, it feels like overwhelm. Some people, it feels like procrastination. Some feels like freezing or avoidance, right? And for us, it's like we're doing something altogether different and not capitalizing it, right? So that's God. I've been on Facebook for 4 hours. I went on to check a business contact, and now I'm buying shoes for my vacation in, Ottawa next week or whatever, right?
Right.
So I want you to start to notice whatever that emotional piece of time management is for you and start to recognize it. And that's what I call finding the beast. If there was a 5-story lizard, huge fire-breathing dragon that lived in your neighborhood, you'd figure out where he lived, right?
Yep.
Same thing. The emotional component where you get overwhelmed or you just push things away is sucking up your time, and you want to recognize when that happened. That is gold. So you first want to sort of notice when that stuff creeps in. The next thing you want to do is calm the interfere discussion. Because what often happens when we start to feel overwhelmed or procrastinate or freeze or avoid is there's a negative conversation in our head. It's usually associated with fear, right?
Right.
So we say things to ourselves like, I can never get this done. I'm never going to finish this. I'm never successful. I'm so stupid. Or whatever other things you say, right?
Right. Like, I don't know where to start. It's too hard.
That's a good one, Leslie. That's awesome. So you want to notice when you're in that, recognize that emotional place, notice the negative discussion in your head, create a positive one that's consistent with productivity. Right? So instead of, I don't know where to start, you could say, what's one place I could start? What's one thing I could move forward? Right? So you feel the emotional difference there?
Oh yeah, it's huge. And I was thinking even this morning, I just got back from a conference and suddenly everything I left on the plate felt massive to me. So I have this massive list. Now, guys, I don't have to-do lists. So this is really weird for this to happen in my life. But I remember feeling like, oh crap, there's no way. There's too much to do. I shouldn't have gone. All these stories, that I started telling myself about it. But the really honest and truth was, I was like, okay, first things first, I got to write it all down and get it out of my head. Second thing, I have to find some time on my calendar to get this done this week, because not everything has to get done today, right?
Exactly. It's a really great example of how you're going to break things down and have a positive discussion that's consistent with productivity.
Perfect.
Right?
Perfect.
So you're going to get it down on paper, get it out of your head, schedule time to do it in your week, and actually decide whether you need to do all of it. Because some of it you just don't need to do, right, Leslie?
Right, Amy?
Yes.
This morning, I said, Amy, do you have time for a special project for me?
There you go.
There you go. So yeah.
Right. So we talked about the first two steps: recognize what's overwhelming you, find the beast, and calm the inner fear discussion, which is tame the dragon. Right?
Perfect.
So the next step is enable your routine and your environment to support productivity. I like to call this engineering your containment system. So this is just like, I don't know, Leslie, did you see the movie Jurassic World or Jurassic Park, where did you see it?
Yes, because I have two little boys that love Jurassic World.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so in those movies, they have these life-size dragons, right? They're big old dinosaurs that are in containment systems. It's a zoo, right? And what happens when the containment systems go down?
Chaos.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Chaos.
Yes, chaos. The dragons start eating the people. It's a problem. So you want to make sure that you set up your containment systems to keep the dragons at bay, right? If there was a 5-story lizard that lived in your village, you would figure out how to keep them on the other side of the fence.
So talk to me, what does a containment system look like for business owners?
So there's two pieces to this. One is set up routines that support productivity. Okay? So those are your daily, weekly, monthly routines that help you just get the important stuff done. And oftentimes, this starts with like a weekly template where you know exactly when you're going to work and when you're not going to work. Right? That's always the first place we start with.
Amazingly.
Yeah. Well, and isn't it interesting, Leslie? Because we all get really confused there.
It is, and I'm laughing here because I know you and I both are on this part, so I'm going to ask this really leading question, but what goes on the calendar first, business or life?
I always say the most important stuff for you goes first.
I'm a big life first, then business.
Yeah. So, and I agree with that for some people. It really depends on what helps motivate you most.
No, that's a good point.
So for some of us, it's more motivating to put in all of the really fun stuff that we want to do in our personal lives. Yeah, Leslie's raising her hand. And then you notice there's not that much time to get work done, so I better get it going, right? There's other of us that really need to know we're bringing in the dollars so that we can relax and have fun at the end of the workday, or whatever that metric is for you. So my message is always set things up in a way that's most motivating for you to reach your meaningful goal.
Awesome. We've got a couple more people going. I know Morella saying thanks for sharing. She thought that was fabulous. And if you're just going, I think we got Jonathan who just joined us. We're talking with Dr. Sarah Reiff-Hekking all about, really how to get past the shiny object syndrome, how to get more focus and presence in your business so you can actually win at it. And she's just shared 3 of her 5 steps. So I know she's doing a great job of kind of revamping those for us. But I wanted to take a break here and just let you know that if you're enjoying what Sarah's sharing, that she's got a free gift for us. Amy, would you mind going ahead and sharing that link? Sarah, will you explain to us what the True Focus quiz is?
Absolutely. So I put together this great free gift that allows people to go through and take a look at the different areas that you need to master to be successful related to time management. And it takes about 4 minutes to go through. You're going to answer a few questions on things like getting control over your time, mechanics and planning, goal setting and priorities, and of course, procrastination and overwhelm. And then you're going to get customized feedback, scores, and also some tips of the next best move to upgrade your time management systems. How does that sound?
That sounds awesome and short, even better.
Yeah. Yes, and you can find it at truefocusquiz.com. That's TRUEFOCUS quiz, QUIZ.com. And Amy put the link there in the chat box.
Yeah, and we actually have it up on one of the open seats right now too, so that's wonderful. So we've talked about steps 1, 2, 3. What's our 4th step?
Okay, well, let me just go back to enable your routine in your environment to support your productivity, which is number 3. That containment system has to do with your routine and also setting up your environment for productivity. So take a look around your office. What is there that's not related to work?
A lot.
What is there that's what is there that's going to pull you sideways because you happen to look at it and it's not related to work, right? If you guys could see my office right now, you would see that I have curtains hanging over bookcases because there's personal stuff behind there and it's distracting if I look at it all day. So instead, there's a curtain covering it. That's one of the ways I engineer environment to support productivity. Another one we've already talked about, turn off your alerts, right? Turn down your phone. Be clear when you're doing project work and when you're open for conversations with others.
And that's so funny because I turn off even my house, the office phone behind me, I turn it off. I can see if it blinks, but if I hear the ring, there's something about the ring that says, answer me, answer me, answer me.
Exactly. It's one that feels very urgent, but is like, okay, so the next 2 steps. Number 4 is get support. And the notion here is, would you just go dragon on your own? I don't think so. I think that only happens in fairy tales.
You need an ally.
You do. You might need, a whole platoon of people to support you. Mm-hmm. Okay? And I just want people on the line to notice that anybody you know that's successful, if you peel back the curtain, you will notice they have not done it alone.
Precisely.
Even if they look like they have.
Precisely.
They haven't. Right?
Right.
So you want to figure what works. And this also is connected with the notion of accountability. Right? So sometimes just checking in with somebody helps us be much more motivated and productive. Sometimes you need a coach to really hold you accountable to your goals and to help you get clear about those goals to begin with. And sometimes you really need a business systems expert to help you figure things out in your business. Get the level of support you need.
So can I ask a question here? Because I think it's interesting to note that you also have to enroll support from people that are in your environment. So if it's family, if you work at home, if you've got business hours and you need productivity time, if it's employees, if it's a boss, there's also that kind of element to it as well, isn't there?
Absolutely. And one of the things that could be helpful with family is to start to think about it as a team, right? And to have that conversation with your family about we are a team, and mom and dad support the kids help mom and dad with bigger projects, and start to set up that kind of conversation. It can make it much easier when you're setting a boundary with your kid about needing to get some work done.
It is, and it's not, I know Amy will say the same thing too. It's not like you ever stop having that conversation, but over time it does get a little easier, especially if you hold up your end of the bargain. So I know for me, I'll be like, look, I need to work until 4 o'clock. I need quiet so that I can concentrate on this. If you honor me and allow me to do that, I promise at 4, I'm done. I will be present with you next. And that's kind of the bargain that goes on in our house, at least.
Yes, and I think that's a great bargain for lots of households, right? And you also need to understand that if you have a kid that's just not capable of that, then you need child support, right? You need childcare.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing. I also see people on the other end, or actually some of us that are kind of in the sandwich generation, where you're supporting elders as well as your own kids. Sometimes elders need some guidelines too, right? Or you need elder care so that you have the time to really focus deeply and get the work done in an efficient manner. And then you can focus on them as you're ready.
Awesome.
So that's getting support. And the last one is keep restarting until you're where you need to be. Dragons need tending, right? So if there's a big old dragon that lives outside your village, you're going to have somebody keep an eye on him and make sure that the perimeter boundaries are up, and he's going to stay on his side of the fence, right? So you want to be building those boundaries, and with a big project, you want to keep coming back and chucking away at it. Right? Keep chipping, keep restarting until it's done.
And this is a good place. I think people do expect it to be a fix it and done kind of concept. And this is more like a life philosophy practice, not a band-aid approach.
Exactly. You keep coming back to things. And one of the things I see with my clients all the time is that they make a bunch of progress on a particular project, and then life or business takes them in another direction for a while, and then they forget to restart so that they can actually finish, right?
Yeah.
And any project finished, you keep starting it enough so it completely gets done.
So talk to me. I mean, we've gone through these 5 things. What I'd like to say is, for those of you that are online, if you have any questions for Dr. Sarah or for myself, please feel free to chat them up in the chat box, or we'll open up a hot seat if we see that there's somebody that wants one. We've been talking about really how to be able to conquer that shiny object syndrome. And I do have a few more questions I'd love to be able to get in with Dr. Sarah in the next 10 minutes or so of our show. But I do want to get to this point because we've used these words, and thanks to Amy. Amy kind of shared Dr. Sarah's free gift, which is the True Focus Quiz at truefocusquiz.com here. But what's the difference between focus and presence?
That's a great question.
Haha.
So let's take a deep breath on that one. So I think about present as owning the moment and being connected to a person or a location or an animal, right? Focus is about guiding your brain to pay attention to something. That makes sense?
Yeah, I love those definitions. And Amy's kind of sharing that in our chat box here, just in case you're having a little hard time hearing, because today's our day for audio problems.
So one of the things that happens is that we push our focus or our attention pretty hard during the day, and then later on it gets harder for us to focus, and it's because we're asking our brains to be too focused too much of the time, or do too much of the same kind of activity for too much time in the day, right? So you want to mix up the kinds of activities that you do to give your brain a break. So for instance, if, like, I see a lot of clients over the phone or on Skype, and if I have too many appointments in a row, it gets harder for me to be really connected to that person and be good with them.
Yeah.
But if I middle of the day with a lunch break or an interview or some writing, then when I come back to the next client, it's much easier for me to do a good job.
Well, and that's a really good point, because I know even in my world, I limit how many clients I will talk to in a day. And I know in the coaching industry, there are people that just line them up and you'll have 7 appointments back to back to back. Me, I feel like I can't sustain that level of focus for that long, that deeply. And so I know for me, I have to break them apart. That way I feel fresh for everyone and everyone gets the good stuff. Not, you're sorry, you're last in line and I'm really not feeling it at the moment type of thing. So that's really good advice.
Absolutely. And what I love, Leslie, is that you know the amount of to spend doing that particular kind of activity in your day before you need to mix something else in. It's a great example of understanding what works best for you.
Well, and this really is that kind of concept that you're not a machine. You shouldn't expect yourself to act as a machine.
Absolutely. And different machines have different optimal ways of operating, right? So I'm really good at seeing a boatload of clients in a row in a day. Part of that is I love it. I have a lot of practice doing it. I've been doing it for like 20 years.
Yeah.
But I could tell you when I first started doing it, 2 hours in a day was exhausting. Right?
Yeah.
Now I can do 6 and do fine, but I know I need a break in between. And I know I can't do that every day.
And there's the balance to it. So it's just a matter of, it's really like you were saying, tapping into who you are, how your energy is fed, how your brain works, all of those personal pieces of the pie to create a map, you know, like you were saying, an environment and a structure that really helps you perform the best way you can perform.
Exactly.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, I know I haven't seen any questions kind of pop up in our chat box, and we've been talking all about really how to get a little more focus and a little more presence. But I did want to actually touch on this shiny object syndrome type thing, because one of the biggest distractions that entrepreneurs can have is their own mind and their own ideas. And that's above and beyond even notifications and interruptions that we've been talking about. Can we just talk a little bit about how some of the tools you give your clients to really harness ideas so that they can finish one first before they've actually started another one in their business?
Absolutely. One of the concepts I talk about a lot is this notion of meaningful goals. And you need meaningful goals in your larger life and also in your business. So you want to get super clear about what success and productivity looks for you. You usually have some kind of a project or a metric that's related to that, right? So an example of a metric might be, I'm going to do so many new client appointments in a month. I'm going to see so many billable hours a month. An example of a project might be, I want to make sure I get my podcast up in the next 90 days, right? So you want to get clear about what those are and how they relate to your longer term goals in your business. And then keep reviewing that list of projects or goals each week, breaking them into pieces and putting them into your calendar so you know you're going to do work on those things. And then also make sure that as the creative space comes up for you and your brain gets so excited and you come up with all of those new ideas, that you have a place that you keep track of those. Mm-hmm. And complete one project, then you get to ask yourself, is there room for another? If so, what's the best one to start given my long-term goals? Make sense?
Makes perfect sense. So it's really by focusing on a larger.
Yeah, you really have to capture all that excited creativity that comes up, right? That's good stuff. But you want to ask yourself, does it hit my bottom line? Is it consistent with my long-term goals? If not, you want to park it and take a look at it later.
I love that parking lot concept because it's really important that we do that with our own selves as much as we might put somebody else's idea in a parking lot. So Dr. Sarah Reiff-Hekking has been joining us today. We've been talking about procrastination and really time management and focus and presence and all these things that really make it easier for you to be successful in your business. Clarity and focus like this really is what enables you to grow your business, enables you to focus, like Sarah was saying, on those higher goals and staying true to the path so that you can get along further in your business. Now, Dr. Sarah has a free gift that we've been sharing throughout the show, and it's at truefocusquiz.com, and it's just a free quiz, 4 minutes, that will help you learn how to manage your own tasks in a way that works for you. So what I even having Dr. Sarah on here is, we all have ways that we look at things, and she definitely has a more customized approach than I think a lot of people will get. So take that quiz, receive your kind of free report that'll help you identify the areas that you can improve so that you can have better success, and that's at truefocusquiz.com. Dr. Sarah, thank you so much for hanging in there with us as we work through our alternative audio issues that Lab can gift us with on every show. Do you have anything else you'd like to share with everyone before we close?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me today. And I'm glad we solved the tech issues enough to have a great conversation. And the thing I want people to really think about here is make sure you set up time management systems that work for you and your brain, and you build on what you know works for you, and you don't beat yourself up. If you're having problems, reach out, get support. One of those key principles to moving forward in your life.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And guys, thank you for joining us. Again, we are on every Monday afternoon at 1:30 Central, provided it's not a holiday. Also can catch us on iTunes over at the Healthy Business, Healthy Family show. And we'll just wrap up in saying, join us next week. We're actually going to be talking about sales again, and why sales needs to be about the destination, not the journey. And I will be sharing lots of fun stuff that I have been sharing with some people and getting some great responses on. Until then, this has been your host, Leslie Hassler, my wonderful VA, Amy Blesser, and our guest today, Dr. Sarah Reiff-Hekking. Thank you so much, guys.